Just before going on ahead, this is a spoiler warning for both Echo and Season 2 of Marvel's What If series. So if you have not seen them, please check the episode after you watch both series. See you guys.
TNMP, the Nerdy Misfit Podcast, with your hosts, Connor O'Neill and Matthew Hughes.
What is up, Nerdy Misfits? It's Connor and Matt.
Hello, it's us again. Crazy.
Back with another episode. A long-awaited episode.
Exactly. Maybe. Kind of. Not really. I don't know. There's
I
not
don't
really
know.
a hype.
Maybe some people it was long-awaited. For us, long-awaited to record.
Yes, that's for sure.
It feels like we've been talking about discussing these two series for a while, both on and off the podcast.
Yeah, one was done at the end of December, and then we were going to wait for the other show to be done just to kind of do a two-up.
And then we got distracted by other things that came up, like the Crunchyroll Awards.
Yep.
Stuff that we didn't plan, but we're pretty far planned now.
Yeah, heck yeah, we are.
We've got a lot of
so good.
We've got a lot of episodes in the pipeline already planned, some recorded. The saddest thing actually is we recorded a pretty amazing Batman episode. I won't spoil exactly what it is, but if I do say so myself, it was a pretty fun and good ep. And we've now pushed it back like 7
You won't
8
be
weeks.
seeing it for another 2 months, basically.
But when we first recorded it, we recorded 2 episodes in one day and we're like, oh yeah, nice, we're ahead. And then as we started looking at things coming out,
Yeah, different
like
things coming out.
or Crunchyroll Awards being announced, etc., different things we were going to cover, we're like, oh no. And it just kept getting pushed back. We're closing in on episode 100. So some things got pushed back because of that, and now it's like, yeah, it's like 2 months pushed.
Yeah, and now here we are.
But it was a good ep. I think we had a lot of fun.
I'm pumped to release that episode. I was talking to I was actually at the comic book store today, and I was like asking him that exact question, and the owner of the comic book store was like, I don't know. And even I was with Eddie as well, who's been on the podcast before. I asked him the same question, and funny thing is he said someone that we didn't even put in it.
Yeah.
Really? And he's like, well, that person would have had to lead it. And I was like, interesting.
That is the big thing. The without super spoiling it, the leader is kind of how certain characters would come out, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with your initial option is best.
I think so too.
I think it makes the most sense. And then the way it's just so good.
Such a good episode.
I go on a massive rant too.
It is so funny.
But yeah, look forward to that in 2 months. Anyway, so here we are. We're talking.
Let's start with the animated one first.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know, we're going to be discussing the Marvel What If Season 2, as well as the Echo series that both are on Disney Plus. Like Matt said, Echo came out at the end of December, or vice versa.
At the beginning of January. What If did 9 episodes, one after another, like 9 rows in a day. I think it was like Boxing Day to New Year's kind of thing, or the 22nd or something.
So this is kind of our Marvel content for most of the year, unless they end up announcing
for movies
other
or
stuff.
something. Yeah, I don't really know other than like Deadpool.
Which did get finished filming recently. I saw Ryan Reynolds.
Straight up, I don't think we're going to be really talking about Madam Web.
We might talk about it, but not as its own thing. We will go see it.
Yeah, as it stands right now, Madam Web and Kraven the Hunter, and then Deadpool would be the 3 Marvel movies.
But 2 of them are
Sony.
So it's weak Marvel on that side. But yeah, so I guess we'll talk about the What If first. So if you're unfamiliar, the What If series is an animated series by Marvel, and basically it's as simple as it sounds. It's what if, and then ... proceed to say character do something that didn't happen in the main continuity.
Exactly. So we can just go blurb per episode quick if you want.
All right, well,
break down each
first of all,
episode.
did you, comparative to season 1, did you dislike?
I think season 1 was a lot stronger. Like if you look at season 1, like you had What If Captain Carter was the first Avenger? What if T'Challa became Star? What if the world lost its mightiest heroes? You know, the Marvel Zombies episode.
They did have both Easter eggs and continuations, though, of
They
some of
did.
those things.
Yes, for sure.
Which I didn't dislike, but I also wasn't really expecting, because I thought that's kind of a cop-out continuing
A what if and a what if, yeah. I understand the multiverse concept that they're trying to go through with the What If show, so I can understand it. I'm not the biggest fan of it, but what ifs. But yeah, season 2, first episode. What if Nebula joined the Nova Corps?
Honestly, I think
super
this was,
predictable episode.
but I thought it was one of the better ones.
Really? Okay.
Mostly because it felt more in line with the classic What If,
Yep.
where you're like, okay, yeah, that's pretty out there. That's unusual. And we haven't really gotten much about the Nova Corps overall.
No, I would say overall this season feels like it focused more on like B-list characters.
It didn't feel as MCU heavy.
Yeah, I would agree with you. Yeah, it's not fully directed to the main storyline.
Which is also, I think,
Good.
it's good, but also it doesn't make as much sense for What If.
Exactly.
Because if you're a casual MCU watcher and you've only watched Marvel films, or even if you just watch all the MCU content, but you're not into comics or into the TV shows, what are you getting from the What If? Is you're not getting as much from it, unless I guess you could actually just skip certain episodes and be like, I don't know, and just skip it.
Yeah, if you don't care about Nebula, why watch this episode?
But
Or, you know.
yeah, I feel like the What If should just be more focused on the strictly MCU, because then it's in line with it.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously, it's nice to see other characters get the spotlight, which if they're not in the MCU, then you're not going to see them in a series. So
Exactly.
I get both sides, but I feel like if you're trying to get casual watchers, you almost are forced to be like, hey, this is What If insert MCU character or an event in MCU.
Yeah. Switch it.
But yeah, it was predictable, but you know, I don't mind the kind of like dry humor that Nebula has.
It kind of bounces
And
off.
as you
people that
watch the
aren't-
rest of this, it felt like humor was almost too forced down your throat, and
in certain episodes more than others, yes.
it was definitely, it wasn't the more, I sneaked that nice joke in there level of Marvel
Humor.
humor. It was almost just too much,
It's kind of forced, yeah.
especially the one Iron Man episode, which we'll get to.
We'll get to, yeah.
But yeah, a lot of the humor was not hitting at all for me.
Good return of Howard the Duck.
Yeah, that was very weird. The Howard the Duck. Also, what's with what's his face? The Krog or whatever his name, the Brock guy,
Korg.
Why is he in everything? He's like almost in like every other episode.
People love Korg, man.
But yeah, very predictable episode. I guess the only thing I really liked was that it's cool to see the good side of Nebula.
Yeah. We kind of see her character development a little bit through the MCU, and this one really shines on her, like, you know.
As if she's like a solo act and like, oh, okay, I did bad things, but I'm going to make up for it.
Yeah, exactly.
On to episode 2, which I feel like is clickbait.
Yeah, what if Peter Quill attacked Earth's mightiest heroes?
He didn't
Didn't
attack
really
anyone.
attack. You know, he was a
wanted to go back
child.
to Earth.
Yeah, he was a child. It takes place in 1988.
He just goes back to his home
Yeah,
planet.
we see Howard Stark.
The cool thing about this ep, if you want to say it cool, is that we see like a pre-Avengers Avengers.
Yeah, we see a pre-Avengers Avengers. We see Hank Pym with the Ant-Man stuff more.
We see Thor.
Yeah, that one didn't really make sense.
Yeah.
But, I mean, Peggy Carter, she's a cool character with the Captain Carter kind of thing. But I do feel overall now, I want a season 3 without Captain Carter. I feel like she's been like, she's kind of like what you're talking about, like a reoccurring story. Why is she in most of these episodes?
Yeah, I don't know.
She's a cool character, don't get me wrong. But again, if you're doing a what if story, just do something more, you know? Yeah, this one is probably one of the...
And then we see like Eagle the Planet again, and
yeah,
if you know Matt, you know that he's not a big Guardians fan overall, and he really didn't like Guardians 2.
No, I really didn't.
So that's just like a flash in the pan of Guardians 2.
Yeah. Double negative for
What
me.
if Happy Hogan saved Christmas? So this was the Christmas special episode, if you will, of the
this
show.
came on either like the 24th or the 25th.
And it was okay. Yeah, I guess that's about it. Had Hammer as like the antagonist.
I think it was interesting. Like it was just, it's not even like a what if. It was just like this just kind of happened.
Some of the stuff didn't make sense when they were trying to contact the Avengers and all of them were busy. Like I get that was supposed to be funny,
Yeah.
but also like it didn't make much sense. Like it was an emergency.
Yeah. Hello.
And then the whole Happy being
Hulk Hogan.
Hulkified was weird.
I feel like it was a joke on like Hulk Hogan, the wrestler kind of thing. I think it's more weird when that comes back later for no reason whatsoever.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that. So moving on, episode 4. What if Iron Man crashed into the Grandmaster? So this is basically end of Avengers 1.
This was one of the better
concepts.
what ifs. It just wasn't good on the latter half. Like
Not a fan of
the
Mad
start
Max.
of the what if was good.
Yeah.
What if Tony Stark didn't return after he closed the portal?
Cool concept. Return of the Korg.
Yeah, Korg returns again. But this one was way too forced on the humor. Because, well, one, if you've seen the Grandmaster in the MCU, he is a bit cringe and
I think,
over the
they
top.
really tried to go with the humor of Thor Ragnarok.
But then they really pushed hard on it, and it was just... I don't think I found any of the jokes funny at all.
Yeah. We see like the weird return of the duo of like Gamora and Tony Stark, because we've seen that a little bit in season 1, I believe.
Yeah, the ending of this episode was interesting.
Yeah. It's like they're trying to like just make sequels of what ifs. Like they set up so they're like, oh, we'll revisit and continue this. I'm like, okay, but then your what if
Yeah, you're not... Like, you just
Yeah.
keep continuing. Like, don't you have original ideas?
Exactly. Which brings to episode 5. What if Captain Carter fought the Hydra Stomper? So
I like the Hydra Stomper.
I think it's really cool.
The concept is... This is probably one of the stronger what if concepts. Because everything's twisted, right? We got...
Well, she's part of the main Avengers.
Right. She basically is Captain America.
She's Captain America in this world.
And then we've got her partnered with Black Widow.
Yep.
And in this world, the Winter Soldier, if you will, is basically
Yeah.
Steve Rogers. It's just that he is
In a giant,
the Hydra Stomper.
which is basically the Iron Man suit, the evil Iron Man suit from the first Iron Man.
Yeah.
Like the Ironmonger.
Yeah. He's basically just this Russian Iron Man.
Yeah, that's honestly the best way to.
And Rhodes in this is a senator.
Yeah.
No, not Rhodes. Well, no, Rhodes is still the same. And the Winter Soldier, Captain Buggy, is he is a senator. So, but he's old.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like everyone's kind of mixed around.
Yeah, this one definitely had, I think, probably the best premise for a good what if.
And then it's predictable as you'd expect, where it's kind of like, okay, they want to save Captain Rogers after they figured out who it is. And and then they fight the Red Room, which was interesting.
different. It was good to see the return of that a bit, like adding the proper MCU Russian.
It maybe had a couple of okay jokes in it too, like the little quippiness between Black Widow and what's her face from the Red Room. Like that was nice.
This is definitely one of the better episodes, I'd
Yeah, I
say,
agree. It's
if
definitely
not
one of the better.
the best of the season. I don't know if that's, but it's definitely, I'd say, like of the 9, it's better. I didn't like the ending.
I think it might be the best one.
I think because this was the ending that like tied it into the story for the second half of the season, right? And then we got episode 6. So what if Kahori reshaped the world? So this is MCU's original character. She is not in the comics. She's not anywhere else other than this episode here.
Well, maybe we'll see her now.
Yeah. What did you think of this episode before I go off about it?
Thought it was okay. The concept makes sense. The only issue I have with it is the what if part of it in terms of MCU, right? If you're going into the series as a what if this happened in, like, for example, the Watcher, the series is the Watcher continues the journey as our guide through the multiverse,
Mhm.
introducing brand new and familiar faces throughout the Marvel Cinematic Universe. This is not a pre-established MCU anything. The only thing is the Tesseract, right? That's the what if of part of it.
Kind of, because that also kind of goes because what ends up starting the episode was Ragnarok happening. Like Surtur comes and Odin fights Surtur, and then Asgard gets destroyed, and then that leads with the Tesseract coming to Earth.
And then this is the Tesseract is what basically ends up giving some powers, but
Yeah.
yeah, from a what if standpoint, it was weird. It almost felt like it belonged more in a
Its own thing.
if
but
there
it
was like a
wouldn't-
journey through the MCU or something.
Yeah.
Like some sort of show that was like, oh, here's things there are no movies or shows about, but we're gonna give you a 20-minute
But then I don't.
20-minute, hey, this is this character that exists in this timeline of the MCU.
Yeah.
It just didn't feel as big of a what if for me.
No, I would agree with the what if. For sure. It didn't feel like a what if.
Yeah, it was interesting. Also, from a history point of view, we have, in this case, I think it was the Spanish that came, and classic Westerners just trying to take over land. And
To give you context, this episode takes place in like the 1600s.
Oh, yeah, it's
basically,
old.
for the listeners.
but it's the Spanish trying to just take land, and they're trying to find the Fountain of Youth, and the Fountain of Youth is this
Forbidden Lake.
forbidden lake that it actually teleports people to this different realm, I guess.
Yeah, like the sky people, like the sky world.
Where
Basically, like,
they're basically
kinda like
immortal
an
now. They have
afterlife,
powers.
Immortal power, yeah.
But the interesting part is they don't want to return.
Yeah.
And our main character ends up going here and does want to return because she wants to save her people who are currently under attack.
Classic. My thoughts on this episode. Very similar to you.
And the cool thing was it was in the language.
That's my
and it was-
highlight of this episode.
so
Is the episode
you
came out
was subbed.
in Mohawk.
So that was interesting, and that's like kind of a cool little detail.
I was very surprised they did that. I'll be honest. The fact that this is on episode 6. You can only, if you're watching it this way, it is in Mohawk. Like you can put a different language on it, obviously, but it's all subbed in traditional Mohawk language. If you do want to watch it in English, you can go through the extras page on Disney Plus to watch in English if you want. Which the main actress that voices it in Mohawk also did the English dub, which is just kind of, I don't know, just snippet there.
Who also
Which we'll get to later, plays Bonnie in Echo, but we'll talk about Echo in a little bit. I don't know. This kind of supports my theory that I've been chatting about on the podcast for the last little bit of the MCU moving in a way that the Infinity Stones are transferred into like entities now, where Wanda is one of them, Loki is one of them, and now we have Kahori, who is literally an entity for
what is this set up for?
I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. But I'm like, it's the premise of like love, clothing, exchange.
It's just cool to see the stones still exist, I guess.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, the stone may not be the stone anymore, but there's an entity that now
energy
represents
can
that.
never be destroyed. It's just
Yeah.
transferred kind of concept, right? So maybe they're creating some weird Infinity Illuminati-esque situation.
Maybe,
I don't know.
maybe there's some sort of impact event if in Secret Wars that involves
be.
having all the powers that are the entities of the stones.
Because realistically, they're all becoming gods. I know Loki's already a god and already
Yeah.
lives outside of time and space.
He's
now, but
transcended his original godness.
yes, now he is a superior god.
Yeah.
Now, episode 7, probably my least favorite episode.
Which one was this?
What if Hela found the 10 rings?
Oh yeah, that one was really weak. I thought the concept of Odin banishing her, similar to how he banished Thor,
Yeah, with her
was
crown.
a cool start.
It was a cool start, and then, it just fell
no,
flat.
I don't understand like why the 10 rings and
I didn't really understand how the 10 rings even connected to anything. Like, so she like what went to Japan, like
China or something.
China, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not too sure what the goal was there, because it didn't really feel like she learned any lessons either.
Yeah, like
which was like the whole concept of like the banishment for Thor.
Yeah. What did she learn? She like found it automatically, and she was like, "Yo, that's my helmet."
She didn't even care. She was like, "Oh, there's this other thing," and
Yeah, now I want the 10 rings. I'll pretend to join their culture.
yeah, I'll try and get that power.
And then boom, we find the secret village and the weird thing, and then
Yeah, instantly.
Yeah,
She instantly got led to a village that no one's really supposed to know about.
by Trevor, the weird headless looking
Thing.
butt dragon. Yeah, she joins, and then Heimdall's like, "Oh, I have no idea where she is." And then all of a sudden, Odin's later on was like, "Yo, I know exactly where she is. It's fine." And you're like, "Oh, okay, cool." And then they team up.
Yeah.
I just don't know. And then she ascends. She like gets her helmets back, and is all of a sudden worthy enough. But then, what is the power of Hela?
Ragnarok.
Nice. See what I mean? I don't know. Probably the weakest episode, in my opinion. Followed by the next episode, which is also pretty weak.
What if the Avengers assembled in 1602? Yeah, this one, well, yeah, I don't know. No, I don't know. I don't even know where to start, really.
It's based on a comic,
Which is nice
which
and
you
all.
think that they
but-
would want to follow more.
It was weird to see like a Nick Fury that was like 1602 Nick Fury, like literally looked just like him.
Yeah.
I'm not the biggest fan of when they have to make a character look identical to a character that exists for us. I'm not always the biggest fan of like, oh, let's go to 1602 and oh, there just so happens to be a character that is literally Nick Fury, but he's not Nick Fury, but he is.
Like Roger's Hood instead of Robin Hood.
Exactly.
That whole thing.
Thor, okay, yeah, that makes sense. See, that's something I can get on board with. Okay, this hero can transcend that amount of time, you know?
Yeah.
And why not just have a unique cast of people that potentially could be in the 1600?
Yeah. I mean, I did enjoy the way they did Bruce Banner with him like wearing the iron mask and like being like, "No, guys, like leave me alone," kind of thing. Like, I don't want to.
Yeah, I don't want to participate.
Yeah, I thought that was good. The thing that makes me dislike this episode though is that Hulk Hogan is like the villain, or Happy Hogan, sorry, is like the villain, like one of the bandits and stuff like that. And then he hulks out and becomes the weird thing that he was in the weird Christmas episode. And I'm
that
like,
also
what?
doesn't take place in the 1600s.
That irrelevant.
You know who would have been a good 1600? Some sort of, if they're gonna just reuse characters that are existing already and just make them 1600ified.
Yeah,
Doctor Doom.
Doctor Doom would have been really fun.
Just like an old school Doctor Doom looking guy.
Well, even like freaking the Spider-Man. Spider-Man was not like literally Count Otto von Doom is one of the main characters in the Marvel 1602 story.
Oh, well, there you go. I've never even read it, and it makes sense.
You're in it, man.
Because that's what makes sense.
Yeah, exactly. Like Petros and his sister Wanda, like they had stuff here, and this is actually a book. This is a story I've wanted to read. Like Sir Nicholas Fury's obviously there,
which is kind of dumb,
yeah,
in my opinion.
Yeah,
if you guys like him, all power to you.
But like you had like Matthew Murdoch, a blind Irish minstrel, who's like an entertainer and stuff like that. Like you had all these characters. Yeah, the four from the Fantastic. A band of explorers who gained powers when their ship encountered a strange energy vortex at sea. You know, Captain Benjamin Grimm, Sir Richard Reed.
Alternate universe, so I guess it doesn't matter. They can't. This is just, there is no other Nick Fury. This is the Nick Fury. He just lived in the 1600s instead of modern time. Anyways, the finale.
Well, that episode ends with you seeing the weird timeline-esque thing where Thanos, and it's all like the weird stones and everything. It just didn't, whatever. And then Peggy Carter sees Doctor Strange, but it's obviously the Doctor Strange from season 1 who was heartbroken was instead of his hands or whatever. And then we get to the finale of the season of What if Strange
Supreme intervened? And this is just, like Matt said, from season 1. Basically just have a broken down Doctor Strange who's manipulating Captain Carter. And
Kahori returns
because he's trapping a bunch of heroes
and villains. Like, the concept was interesting, but then we didn't really see the outcome of that. Really, like, we did a little bit of giant army.
And then, of course, he's like, well, what if this happened to Steve? And she's like, oh, Steve wouldn't approve of this, and I wouldn't approve of this. And then they fight Doctor Strange.
Exactly. And then everything kind of... I mean, the Killmonger shows up, and then they become overpowered, basically, because she ends up using, like, Hela's helmet and the Infinity Stones and her shield, and then Kahori gets some...
Has her powers.
And there was just a lot. And then... It does end, obviously, with them going to the new timeline, because the whole thing is like, oh, Dr. Sorcerer Supreme, whatever the hell his name is like,
he's trying to find, like, the timeline there.
That she feels loved and she's happy and everything like that. And then it's revealed that he creates that timeline, but that means Doctor Strange was never existing in that. And that's kind of the way the episode ends. And it's like, oof, heartstrings, but was it, though?
At least they didn't go super hard on the humor for that one.
True.
Yeah, overall, if I was to give it a score out of 10,
6.5.
Yeah, I was gonna say like a 6, maybe even a 5.5.
Yeah,
it's tough. It is, to be fair, it is tough because you want to make something unique, different. But we mentioned off a podcast before that it just feels like there's so many options, and like. For the name, what if? Just pick an epic moment or an epic character moment in the. There's a lot of MCU movies and shows now.
Pick a movie.
You could even go in MCU order.
Yeah, start with Iron Man. What if Iron Man died? What if the explosion at the end, like
what if
Iron
Tony
Monger
Stark
survives?
never left the cave?
Yeah. What if Rhodey put on the suit during Iron Man 1?
There you go. See, now we're talking.
You know what I mean?
Not maybe next time. How about this time?
What if he's like, no, this is the time, and goes to put on, then War Machine starts there. Would that affect everything,
How would that change things?
He wouldn't be experiencing that in the slightest, so he could have easily died.
Yeah.
And then that may have caused Tony to stop wanting to be Iron Man, thus the Avengers. You know what I mean? Like,
and Iron Man 2, what if Tony Stark couldn't make the element to stop his sickness?
And he dies.
From the poisoning, yeah. There's a lot of things. The easiest one also is you can just, what if Nick Fury couldn't get X Avenger?
Exactly.
And you just straight up add a new Avenger.
What if
the
Thor
Avengers.
didn't become worthy and someone else picked up the hammer?
There you go.
Like,
what if we had a different Thor for the entire MCU, basically?
Everything, man. So many options.
That's the thing. I feel like that would have been a better way of going through, is just going through a lot of the movies and just being, what if X moment or X thing didn't happen to X character or thing?
Well, even another big one. What if they defrosted Captain America like a year later? After the Chitauri already attacked Earth, and Captain America is waking up to like not an apocalyptic world, but like where they lost, and he's like, "What the heck happened?"
Yeah, exactly. A lot better. There's a lot of options.
There's a lot of options. That's just in phase 1.
Ton of options. What if Daredevil didn't get blinded?
Yeah, that's another big one.
I'm just saying, there's a lot of interesting options.
I mean, the biggest one that would be probably the best what if is that what if the other half got dusted instead? Like that would probably be the best what if.
Yeah, how did the whoever
the opposite, Yeah,
how did they figure it out?
Exactly. Like that would be a
true.
big one, I think. I mean, we could do a whole episode just on that theory, but like
Tony Stark would be in rough shape.
Well, all of the original Avengers wouldn't be there. Because it was basically all the original Avengers that survived. And a couple others.
Yeah, that's true. What would Spider-Man do?
Literally, it's like... Because all the OP ones survived.
What would Peter Parker do? Yeah,
Ant-Man would still get out, but like, you know what I mean?
Because what their answer is they time travel.
Then who would create the time travel?
Yeah, a lot of the smart people are making the time machine. So who would they have that has the intellect to make a time machine?
Exactly. Victims, survivors. So Hulk, Hawkeye, Ms. Marvel, Daredevil apparently, Ant-Man, Korg, Nebula, War Machine, Rocket, Captain America, Wong, Valkyrie, Thor, Tony, and Moon Knight and Black Widow.
So it would be tough. I guess you'd be heavily reliant on Nick Fury. And maybe he has some people that are high intellect.
Well, maybe Hank Pym, because he wouldn't have got blipped.
Or, yes, I am a seal. That could be a really good introduction of Mr. Fantastic.
Could be that. Well, even too, Black Panther would survive, so they would have that kind of technology.
Mr. Fantastic, and Peter, and they go to Wakanda.
Between Hank Pym, Peter, and Black Panther, I think something could.
Why are you leaving out Reed Richards?
Well, because he's not technically existing.
Yeah, but it's a what if.
But it's true. What if he could be there too?
It's a good way to introduce him.
I think it'd be dope.
Imagine what if, right? This happens, and then he shows up. He shows up in the MCU, like in like picture this in the actual movie, where similar to Ant-Man, where Ant-Man just kind of shows up at the front door.
Yeah.
Obviously, Ant-Man will still be able to do that because he's unaffected in general because he's in the quantum realm. But yeah, Reed Richards just shows up and goes, "Hey, I'm Dr. Reed Richards.
Well,
I want to help."
Like, what if, like, at the end of Avengers 1, when that giant pit opens in the sky, right, and Tony goes through that, right? What if that is the anomaly that causes the Fantastic Four to be created?
Oh, that's interesting.
Like that, you have the perfect setup for that.
I like that.
So that could be a what if. What if a ship, like, went through that portal?
Yeah.
That could be the origin of Fantastic Four. Like, there's a lot you can do.
You're not wrong. Yeah, it wasn't my favorite.
Yeah. Moving on to a
different show.
Echo.
Which was overall decent, solid.
I was kind of concerned because this is the first time Marvel's done something different when it comes to releasing things. Where it was, first off, it was 5 episodes instead of the usual standard 8 to 12.
Out.
And
was it all out at once?
Yeah. All 5 episodes released all at January 9th, I believe. So it was interesting to see them just being like, yeah, boom, here you go.
And in classic Disney Plus fashion, some were a little longer when needed, some were a little shorter. I believe,
so it's 51, 42, 45, 40, and 37.
Yep. And I'll give it a solid like 7.5. Like it was just solid. Like I don't think it was bad, and I don't think it was unreal, but
it picks up a few months after Hawkeye because we see the main character Maya Lopez as she shoots Fisk in the head. Literally just shoots him in the face.
Yeah, I was not expecting that to happen in the first episode.
That happens at the end of Hawkeye.
Oh right, that is what happened.
Yeah,
she shows up.
So I enjoyed that the beginning of this episode was
right
a flashback of like, hey, this is where she's from. This is Hawkeye. This is what she does. This is where we are.
The thing that they also do well in the first episode, this is just obviously a writer choice, but it makes sense, is they establish that she's a good fighter.
Yeah.
Right? Like
Fight with Daredevil.
Nice. Exactly. That was the only time you see him, but it was a good, like, hey, okay, we need to establish like why she's a badass, basically. Like where is she on that power scale? And the fight with Daredevil kind of gives you that, okay, she can hold her own.
Yeah, exactly. It was interesting because that's like one deaf person versus a blind person. Like
I did find that very
very interesting, that aspect.
Although she doesn't have a power based on being her disability.
Yeah, she doesn't get heightened senses.
Or does she? I don't know. That's one thing that's a little
unclear.
We'll talk about it, but as I don't know.
I can skip through a couple like interesting things before we get into the story, but I mean, personally, the use of sound was very beneficial. I enjoyed that you kind of felt from her point of view, like especially in episode 5 when it's about to, like the fight's about to go down at the powwow and her friends there like signing and everything, and you just hear like radio silence almost.
I liked the scene in the roller rink too. It's just like every now and then they would just go from the main character's perspective, and it's just silent.
It makes it more like intense.
It does, and the choreography for the fighting was good.
All choreography was really well done, in my opinion. I was very surprised with that because I know in the past some of the Marvel shows don't necessarily have the best choreography, but I think they did really good. I think all the supporting characters were really good.
Yeah,
I think
agreed.
There was not any supporting characters that I was like, ugh, let's get this scene over with.
The grandma kind of annoyed me, but in a way that the character's written,
it worked.
Made sense for the character. It was just,
Yeah,
I was a bit annoyed.
That's fair. I would agree with that, but in a good way.
In a way that made sense.
Yeah.
Obviously, she loses her daughter,
Mm-hmm.
and she doesn't forgive
Her husband,
she
son,
doesn't her
son-in-law.
Doesn't forgive him, and in doing so also doesn't reconnect with her granddaughter because of it. And it's because her granddaughter reminds her so much about her daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And then on top of that, the grief that she had causes her to end things with her husband at the time.
Yep.
So, although I do respect the her ex-husband's hustle, every time she shows up, he's like flirting with her. And he's like, oh, it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, I do enjoy the chemistry on screen.
But
Honestly, was just good.
He still loved her, and
Exactly.
he was probably the best for me, the best characters.
Yeah, he's a solid.
He was
character.
like the classic chill grandpa who was just like, why can't we all just like each other and
Exactly. Why
talk
can't we just
and,
chill and everything's fine?
I haven't seen you for 20 years. Oh, you need something? Okay, I'll make it for you.
Yeah.
Why are you getting
Easy
this
peasy.
stuff? This is probably a bad idea. Your grandma's not gonna like. I'll give it. Oh, you can have it anyways. I'm not gonna question it.
Whoops.
Grandma comes in. We should get back together.
Exactly. Yeah, I think.
And the humor in his character was also good. There was the one scene. So he has a shop, and there's this white family that's coming through the town. And for those who don't know, the town is an indigenous town. From what I could tell, the entire town / village was.
Yeah. It was implied that it was in or close to a reserve
Of some sort, yeah.
Yeah.
And so these white families going through, and they stop by the shop, and they want, some stuff for the aesthetic, which I know is a big no-no for a lot of people, using other people's cultures for aesthetic. I'm not going to get into that. Some cultures love it.
Yeah.
They love when other ethnicities are trying to promote and be, as long as it's done tastefully,
Yeah.
I should say. Right? Like, I know the Japanese culture, Japanese people are big fans of when a lot of people want to be involved, and that's a cool thing.
Mm-hmm.
But this was also a kind of a diss to your average white person,
In a way.
which they're like asking for things for aesthetics, and then they were speaking a language of some sort to
Like the indigenous language.
Yeah.
Is Cho. I had it a second ago. It is a Choctaw.
and they obviously were speaking some other different language.
Yeah.
I'm assuming an indigenous language of someone. And the grandma just looks at he's just like, what did they just say? It's like if you were to go to I don't know, like a Japanese American or a Chinese American who doesn't know their mother tongue, and someone just starts speaking really butchered Chinese or something to them, Mandarin to them, and they're like, bro, I'm American.
They're like, whoops.
So
Well, it's like I think of
funny
like
scenes.
that Rush Hour scene,
Yeah, exactly.
like that kind of concept and everything like that.
So he was good. And this, unlike the What If, had a lot more classic Marvel humor that worked.
I agree with that 100%.
Wasn't like forced. It was just really clean, in the moment. A little. Some of it was more like quippy. Some of it was more just in the moment. One-liners that all just kind of worked a lot better.
Yeah,
in my opinion.
I would agree with that. We see the return of Vincent D'Onofrio as Kingpin.
Yes,
Such a good actor for Kingpin.
perfect casting
Looks comic book accurate.
and sounds
Like just insane. It's so funny because anytime I look at him, I automatically think of him from Law and Order,
Yep.
and then also the villain from the first Men in Black. He's the bug guy.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. I know.
Did not even put that together.
Yeah, that's him. The dude that's made out of like bugs, and he's
That's wild.
Yeah. Crazy.
The Kingpin.
But
Perfect casting.
perfect casting. He looks like just
Yeah,
right out of the comic book.
if we want to poke some negative holes, I would say that I was confused at times of the way the relationship worked with the Kingpin and our main character.
Mm-hmm.
Mostly because
Part of the timeline just didn't.
Yeah,
add
we
up.
see her move away as a kid to New York, and then we skip ahead to her dad dying. Then we skip ahead to the scene of her killing the Kingpin, because obviously the assumption is that he either killed or was responsible for her dad dying. Hence that why she wanted the Kingpin dead. But then randomly we see her hanging out with the Kingpin as a kid, but her dad's still alive. So how tight was Kingpin with her dad? Like, how high up was her dad?
Well, I'm reading the description. And it says that he's a commander of the Tracksuit Mafia, and that Fisk became kind of like Maya's uncle.
Yeah, like classic mafia.
Yeah.
Like, oh, like, you know, like I got that idea, but it's just, I just am very interested in why the Kingpin took such a liking to her specifically.
And still doesn't decide to.
Yeah, he never
learn
learned
sign
ASL.
language.
Yeah. Yeah. The tech was cool. It was a cool that would be really great in for
I'm excited
a lot of
because so the day this episode comes out is also the day that Disney releases the assembled episode for the show. And I'm very curious of how the difficulties of having your main actress be deaf.
Oh, you mean like some of the behind the scenes
Aspect, yeah.
Well,
And, like,
it seemed like a lot of the cast knew
that's what I mean.
ASL.
Yeah.
So
Very interesting on that aspect. I know when they were shooting Hawkeye, I know Jeremy Rayner and Haley
Seinfeld, yeah.
whoever played Kate Bishop, they went out of their way to learn ASL to be able to communicate with the actress more on set and on scene and everything like that. So I don't know. I'm assuming they would have done the same thing. So I'm really curious about that. I'm pumped to actually kind of watch through that. Yeah, I think for some of the negatives, I think
some of the timeline stuff was confusing. The relationships could have been explained a little bit better. They were a little murky. It would have been nicer just to see her meet the Kingpin with her dad, maybe.
Something, yeah.
Just so we could see how she initially established her relationship and then why she trusted him and was so... Because obviously we see a scene where we know that the Kingpin has her back and that's why like she looks up to him. But it would have been nice to kind of see why she would initially start trusting him with obviously her dad still being around. And then the other thing is it was really hard to gauge what exactly... Because we obviously were dealing with some kind of power. It kind of felt like a plot armor like power. That's almost like kind of what it was, because essentially from my understanding was whenever someone within the ancestral line was in trouble or in need, that is when the power would
like a healing
rise.
Power, yeah.
But then it's so in a way it's like if you were to name it, you could almost call it the plot armor power.
Yeah, in a way.
Because like when you need it most, you're good.
Exactly. The show, this is a 50-50 for me. This show did another cliche thing where final episode of the season, character finally gets the suit. Like it's the most cliche superhero TV show thing.
And she got like a piece that her grandma
decided
to work on.
I think that
she
is
wasn't
good.
even working on it forever.
Yeah.
She decided to work on it.
I think that made it less, I'm still a cliche, but I think it made the cliche more meaningful.
It was definitely meaningful, but it almost is exactly the same as Ms. Marvel.
Ms. Marvel, Daredevil, Titans, season 1, Nightwing didn't get it till the season finale.
But Ms. Marvel, it's more accurate because her mom did not want her to do anything.
Yeah, also true.
And her grandma was not talking to her.
Also true.
So both of them,
the bill.
and then both of them are like, okay, I'm going to do this for her. So it's even more than Daredevil, because Daredevil, although he gets his suit at the end, it's not like he had someone that was bugging the crap out of him this whole time or not talking to him, and that made it, you know?
Well, same thing with even Titans, right? I think Dick gets it at the end of season. Like it's a superhero cliche. Yeah. You just get the costume at the end of season 1. Like it is what it is. Cool other things. I was talking to Connor about this. Each episode is named in order of the ancestors. Episode 1 being Chafa, who is the one that gives them out of the cave, like in their ancestral storyline. And then episode 2 is Lowak. Episode 3 is Tuklo. Episode 4 is Taloa. And then episode 5 is Maya, who's her.
And we get flashbacks to a lot of these characters throughout.
Which
the
I thought
show.
was neat.
Yeah.
As well, like each episode,
The connections
started,
that they have. Yeah.
And one of those flashbacks being episode 4, when we see young Maya with Kingpin and he beats the crap out of the ice cream.
Yeah.
Which is such an
Felt really random and a little brutal, but
but it also showed this could be the beginning of their like closeness because Maya goes over and like.
That's where I think of the established of like she could look up to the Kingpin, like he had her back.
Well,
like,
you
that's
see,
where
because he calls someone, like Fisk calls someone, he goes like, "Get me a new suit jacket
want Maya
now."
to see,
yeah, and then she
there.
turns around the corner, and she kicks the ice cream guy. And I was talking to you about this too beforehand. That it comes up saying 2008, which shows that the Kingpin has been this powerful mafia dude since the beginning of the MCU. Because the first Iron Man takes place in 2008, so it shows you the progression that he's
essentially behind the scenes the whole time the MCU is going on. Kingpin's getting power, and he
rising
has his big fists around New York.
Exactly, which leads to the mid-credit scene of the end of the season, where you have Kingpin on a plane. He's watching the news, and it's a newscaster being like, "New York City really needs a new mayor, and we need someone who is tough and everything." Yeah. So lack of front runners in the New York politics, mayor election, stuff like that. Which, if you've read any of the comics, you know that Kingpin becomes the mayor at some point.
Spider-Man film, maybe.
So, this is going to be tying in directly into Daredevil Born Again. Which, I mean, if Spider-Man wants to pop up in there,
he could.
Well,
there was a lot of rumors that Daredevil was going to be in the new Spider-Man movie.
So the opportunities are there.
It could be good. Sinister Six, maybe, because Fisk sets up a Sinister Six.
It could be. There's a lot of potential, I think.
This is the other weird thing, though, for the ending of this show, is that there was some weird Avatar: The Last Airbender magic going on the Kingpin to try and make him see the...
Well, because the premise of the power is to heal.
Yeah.
Right? So she heals his metaphorical trauma.
Yeah.
Not metaphorical,
his
but
dad
his trauma and stuff like that. Which that is a direct connection. This is interesting because you see in that flashback weird thing, he's looking at the wall and like the painting and like the paint and stuff's falling off. That is a direct connection to season 1 of Daredevil, and Kingpin loves I think her name's Victoria Veronica or something like that.
Yeah. Her
painting of the white wall. And like that just it ties that together and be like, yeah, that's the real reason for the trauma and everything behind him liking that painting
Yeah, but then he didn't learn anything.
But then he didn't really learn.
That's what basically. That's the one thing I didn't like because it was like Avatar: The Last Airbender esque, but not taking away bending, but that level of like, and then nothing learned.
That's some freaking Naruto healing. Like
and then nothing learned though. That's the problem.
I mean, we'll see. I mean, obviously he takes a step back and he gets
being
spooked.
in a movie and he's just the best mayor and he's literally doing everything for New York City. He's not involved in crime.
We'll see.
Very surprised.
I think it's very interesting because the character itself is an indigenous character who is deaf, who has a prosthetic leg, and
she didn't fake it.
She didn't. She literally has a prosthetic leg and is deaf and indigenous in real life. Like it is.
We're starting to see the rise of a lot of lying, especially for indigenous. We're seeing it happen a lot, which is actors lying about
them being indigenous. So to me, that is very nice. Another cool thing too is this entire season is also dubbed in the language of where it takes place. In Tamaha, Oklahoma is where the story takes place. But the language being I know I've already said it. The I'm butchering this and I apologize. The Choctaw language. So the entire season is dubbed in that language as well, which is very uncommon for a TV show to be dubbed in any indigenous language.
We're starting to see it more though.
Agreed.
And it looks like Disney/Marvel is putting their foot forward in a lot of that, which is nice to see. It's cool. The one thing that I really liked about Ms. Marvel was it was a completely different culture for a lot of people who are watching the MCU. Obviously, I'm sure there's tons of MCU fans that can relate, which is nice to see that there is characters they can relate to for both Echo and Ms. Marvel.
Yeah.
But from someone who isn't part of both those cultures, it's also not that everything has, you should take literally, but it's cool to experience culture.
Yeah.
And not only are we experiencing an indigenous culture, but we're also experiencing deaf culture.
Yeah.
as well.
there's a lot.
Looking at her family who all learned ASL, friends from that also learned it so they can speak with Maya. And then the big line that hurts is the Kingpin who loves her so much and is her uncle quotations and cares for her, could never be bothered to learn ASL. He always had an interpreter, and then when he shows up again after revealing he's not dead, he gives her tech so they can communicate.
Yeah.
Because he's never bothered to learn. And Maya calls him out for it, and it's nice.
Yeah, and it's honestly, I agree. Another thing too is I'm also sorry. I'm like reading briefly about because I was curious about this actually. They motion captured it. That's how they did that for the tech.
Oh, for the tech, yeah.
Yeah, I was actually curious of how they did that. So they motion captured it and they got someone else to voice it, obviously.
Because, yeah, it was basically a contact for Maya so she could see someone signing for what Wilson Fisk was saying. And it was pretty cool.
It was pretty neat, that's for sure. Yeah, I don't know. I think it was a pretty solid show.
Wasn't longer than it needed to be.
I maybe like 10 more minutes to just describe a little bit more of their relationship. But
yeah, but I was actually... that's the one thing I'm kind of enjoying about the Disney Plus shows is a lot of them are not longer than they need to be.
Yeah, I would agree.
You know, for a lot of regular TV like Arrow and Flash, I think they suffered from having to be those 20 episode seasons, 20 plus episode seasons.
I think that entire CW verse kind of got out of their hands a little bit. I think the pandemic unfortunately dampered with that too.
Yeah, I think you're right.
But
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
We didn't need that many episodes of the Flash to build up to
100%.
the big bad. And that's kind of what I like about the Disney Plus. It's like, hey, we only need 5 episodes, 6 episodes, 9 episodes. That's another thing that's making the Percy Jackson show so nice, right?
Oh, season finale tonight.
You know that they're not forcing it to be longer than it needs to be. They're like, hey, we're telling the story, and this is how many episodes it takes to tell the story, and that's
deal.
That's what it takes.
Something I want to point out too. This is Marvel's first project that's going to be under a sub Marvel thing called Marvel Spotlight.
Okay.
I'm just going to read the description off Wikipedia, but in November 2023, Marvel Studios announced their Marvel Spotlight banner for select series that focus on more grounded, character-driven stories and are less about impacting the larger MCU narrative. Head of streaming Brad Winterbaum explained that the banner was created during post-production on Echo as a way to indicate to audiences they do not need to watch any other MCU projects to understand the series. Obviously, it's inspired by the Marvel Spotlight comic title that was in the 70s that ran for about 10 years. But I think this is a good idea.
I agree.
And it makes me understand a little bit more why the first couple minutes was just kind of like a retelling of her character in Hawkeye.
Mm-hmm.
Because realistically, you don't need to watch anything else of the MCU.
No, yeah, you're right. The show, for the most part, is just its own thing.
Yeah. Like
it just has that.
If you watch Daredevil and stuff like that and you know Kingpin, then you're going to enjoy it a little bit more.
Yeah, the more you've seen of the MCU, the more you can take out of it, but
if you didn't see anything, then...
Which is smart. It's an intelligent way of...
Still a concrete story.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I don't know. Anything else you want to add about...
No, I mean, unfortunately, we're not going to get, as of right now, as much Marvel content.
No
so it was
Marvel
nice
shows
that
at all this year.
Of these two we're talking about, we got a 50% success rate there on the good scale. So it was nice to have a good one. I hope to see more shows similar to this, though, where it's kind of we're hitting a different culture, in a different style hero, and then jumping in and throwing them in the MCU, honestly.
Exactly.
Why not?
I agree with that. The
thing is, we don't know where we're going with the current MCU, so let's get some cool, different characters in. Why not?
Exactly.
And then we'll see what else, if Marvel ends up announcing other stuff.
Then we'll be there to watch it.
But unfortunately, it looks like we'll be suffering and watching some Sony-related Marvel content instead.
Marvel. I don't know if DC, I think, has Joker 2 coming out.
And yeah, I guess we'll watch that. But yeah, we won't be talking. Unfortunately, won't be a lot of Marvel talk. It looks like, unless we create some mad discussion. We'll have to.
We'll definitely
put our noggins together and think of maybe something related similar to Batman, so we can actually talk about some of our Batman episode that will come out in a couple months.
Yeah,
but for a Marvel character.
But for a Marvel character,
we're gonna need to get some Marvel discussion in because
at some point, yeah, we'll have to. I'll see what's going on in the comic book.
We're very heavy on the anime.
Very heavy on the anime. It's not that we want to shy away from that, but we want to talk about a little bit of other nerd stuff. You know?
Yeah, it is nice to talk about Marvel content, especially when it's actually good.
Yeah.
Would love to talk about some good DC movies. Would love to. Just don't exist.
Just don't exist.
We don't need to go down one of those rants. Been there, done that.
Been there, done that.
But yeah, let us know if you've seen the shows and what you thought about them.
And
are we wrong? What did you enjoy? What did we leave out? And look forward to our Batman episode.
Look forward to that episode because I can't give you the number in case it gets pushed back again.
Yeah, but look forward to that. We got a lot coming out. Look forward to episode 100.
Episode 99 is going to be fun. Episode 100 is going to be a lot of fun.
We got some stuff planned for you guys. Join us in our Discord. The link tree is down below in the description. We answer your guys' questions on a lot of our normal podcasts, not review podcasts usually. And we love to answer them. We even give them a little check mark so you know to look forward to having your question answered.
You know? And until then, thanks for listening to us chat about What If, Echo, and any other other stuff as we do every episode.
And yeah, we'll see you next week.
See ya.
Bye.
Bye.
TNMP, the Nerdy Misfit Podcast. Don't forget to join the island by dropping a follow. Thank you. And see you next week.